So, fun fact, I had seen this episode before prior to going to watch it for this review, but this episode, Once Upon a Swap, somehow I only caught part of it, like specifically the end part of it, because like the first 2/3 of this episode were entirely new to me. I didn't remember them at all. And so I hope you will very much trust me as someone who literally just experienced a large chunk of this episode for the first time, that this is an episode that in order to get complete enjoyment out of it, you kind of just have to watch it for yourself. So this is going to be a relatively short review, and I actually mean that this time. No real summation or anything this time. There's just a couple of key points that I want to talk about, since analyzing them is actually, worthwhile, and that is technically what I do here. This is a very good episode. It's very funny, and also pretty creepy, in that way that this show is very good at being simultaneously funny and pretty creepy. There's a lot of that in this one. So if that's something that you enjoy about this show, this one's one and to really watch out for if you haven't seen it. And try to catch it somewhere. Just look it up online. It's online. The premise of this one is that while working at the stand in the beginning, everybody kind of thinks they could do a better job of living each other's lives than the actual person could. So, straight up, it really taken the trope to school, so to speak. Ida decides to swap hers and King's and Luz's bodies so that they can each learn a lesson about how difficult it is to walk in the other's shoes. It's like, hey, you know that tried and true trope where people get their bodies swapped by accident and then they learn about each other? Let's just do it on purpose. It's fantastic. And it gives us an excuse for each of them to have their own story to take up about a third of the episode. So we end up getting an anthology style episode like we would get in like Gravity Falls did a couple of them, for example. And whereas the Gravity Falls ones are nebulously canon at best, this one is definitely canon. Like, Ida makes a joke at the end, and let us never speak of this again, or something along those lines, right? But this one's definitely canon to the show. Because, and this is really the only plot I want to talk about, is Luz's plot as Ida. I was going to say Ida's plot, but it's not technically Ida. Ida's plot's also very good, though. I will talk about that a little bit at the end. Luz's whole thing is that she thinks that if Ida just plays up who she is a little bit, and shows a little bit more showmanship while she's out and about trying to sell stuff at the stand, she'll be able to sell more, and she proves that that's true. And she uses some basic showmanship to really draw some people in and start selling stuff, which is actually a good point to point out that while she has Ida's body, Luz is very good at magic, but I don't know if that's speaking to a natural talent, or just that she's been studying in her free time, and now that she can use it freely, she can just kind of do it. But that's beside the point. And she ends up drawing too much attention. Because what she doesn't realize is that Ida has been doing this for a long time. She knows how to draw just enough attention to make ends meet at the stand, but not enough attention to draw the attention of the guards, because she's a wanted woman. And she even tells Luz this at the beginning of the episode. And Luz doesn't listen, and she tries it anyway, and ends up getting Ida caught. And Lilith comes into it. And this is where we get some foreshadowing that Ida actually did want to be in the Emperor's Coven when she was younger. This is something we actually see in more detail later. And Lilith extends her hand to Ida, trying to get Ida to join up with the Emperor's Coven to make all of her charges go away. And this is really the first time that we hear that this is an option. It's setting up for stuff later. Like we would have gotten the gist of it in that later, right? We would have gotten it later too. But it's nice to have that little bit of foreshadowing of it. But more importantly, when everything comes to a head at the end of the episode, and the dangers from the three individual plots sort of overlap with each other, and are then cleverly used by Ida to allow the characters to escape them, for the time being at least. It's clear that at this point Ida, or at least Luz in Ida's body, but Lilith doesn't know that, Ida has pushed Lilith to a breaking point now. She's not going to be so amicable anymore. She is going to try a more direct approach. And we see the outcome of that in upcoming episodes, which is how you know this one's canon. Lilith's behavior later is informed by what happened here. It's pretty intense, and like all three of them definitely make mistakes while trying to live the others' lives. But Luce definitely makes the biggest one. Like, it propels the plot of the season forward, right? But Luce definitely makes the biggest one. She upended Ida's life hard and doesn't even really realize it yet, because the consequences of this don't really come about for a little while still. And while, based on how the plot of the series is going so far, I definitely think it's going to work out that it was for the best that this happened long term. It still kind of sucks, because like I said, it upends Ida's life, and it's never easy to have your life turned upside down. That said, Ida's actual plot, she's in King's body, is where most of the creepy factor of this one comes in. It's the first of the three. And it had me laughing, but at the same time, like, my skin was crawling a little bit. It was that kid-friendly kind of horror that I talk about in those reviews a lot. I really like that kind of thing. So I kind of ate that one up a little bit. And it was packaged in that, like, innocence is creepy kind of vibe, which is one of my favorites. King's story in Luce's body was probably the generally funniest. It had a lot of really well-timed gags throughout. It was basically just a montage of well-timed, funny gags. And Hootie, of all characters, really gets to shine in this one too. Like, I don't think he directly interacts with any of the main characters once in the whole thing, but he is used to great comedic effect in ways that I will let you experience for yourselves. Like, I don't know if the writers on this show realized going in what kind of potential this character had for comedic moments, or if they just stumbled upon it as they were going, but they definitely start to make better use of him as the season goes on, and it's great. So I guess if I had to classify them, I'd say the first one is funny, creepy, the second one is just generally funny, and the third of the three stories is actually pretty intense, and has some decent plot stuff in it. This is a really good anthology episode. I liked it a lot. Not to mention that it makes this world feel bigger than it's really felt previously, because each of the characters kind of goes off and does, like, Luce doesn't, she stays at the stand, but the other characters kind of go off and do their own thing, and interact with, like, the kinds of characters you'd see in the background, or characters who are kind of recurring background characters, right? So it makes this world feel bigger and more lived in and more alive. It's honestly, I'd like to get more episodes like this in the future. It was really fun. Again, sorry for this one being kind of short, but, like, as I said, like, 90% of this episode is just stuff you need to experience for yourself, right? So just go do that. And if you already have done that, as per usual, guys, I'd like to know, what did you think of Once Upon a Swap? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, if you could, please like the video and share it with anyone else you think might enjoy my content. Maybe subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to get myself out there, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could help. You can also check out my social medias. Links to those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.